The Actionaid, with support from Ford Foundation, organized the National Conference on the Citizen-Led Engagement in Judiciary Accountability in Post-Election Justice Delivery in Nigeria. Actionaid Nigeria believes that poverty can be eradicated if the right resources and resilience are prioritized as an anti-poverty non-governmental organization. We have been working to protect women and girls from violence by creating opportunities for economic independence and decision-making, enhancing women leadership in accountable humanitarian and resilient systems, and strengthening systems, increasing resource diversification for quality program delivery.
Then more or less that is the end of the story. But that is not the end of the story. That's why election is a process. And we thought that what can we do to walk around this post-election space, and we picked the judicial engagement within that space. How do we get citizens to engage more effectively within that space? Political scientists will tell you that, I think Thomas Hobbes, the social contract theory, they'll tell you that, of course, social contract theory simply states that before now, life was nasty, brutish, and short, and the social contract was drawn that says that we the citizens, we the people, hereby give you the authority as government. So the government derives its legitimacy, its power from the people. And technically, on the other hand, the government then has a responsibility to protect and serve the people. And that goes to say that any government anywhere in the world is supposed to be, mark my word, including authoritarian governments, is supposed to be accountable to the people. However, maybe that's not the case in what we see in several places. But what we are looking at is, in Nigeria's example, where we have the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative, the three tiers of government, the citizens are the boss. The citizens are supposed to hold the government accountable. So how do we get the citizens to be active in the legislative process, the post-election legislative process? That is what this program is all about. And the discussion we're going to be having today is towards having insights, expanding questions, looking at options and then solutions on how this will run. At some point we'll tell you about the project, but that's just a brief from my own part. So Actionaid Nigeria welcomes you to the national convening towards the effectiveness of the judiciary and promoting transparency and accountability of the electoral process. This convergence doubles as the inception meeting for the citizens-led engagement on judicial accountability in post-election justice delivery, which is called the Clip Justice Project. Now, why are we still bothered when election has come and gone? Even for the presidential election, even at least yesterday or two days ago, the case has been rounded up. So the appeal court has given judgments in the case of a senator, and that's the final bus stop. So, but why are we still going ahead with this? And for us, it's not about these particular cases, but it's about the lessons that we're going to be learning from these cases, the lessons that we're going to learn from the judicial process and judicial involvement pre, during, and after the election, and how do we improve on it and get citizens more involved in that space at the end of the day. It's a great pleasure and with a sense of humility that I deliver this opening remark. But before I proceed, it's important to highlight that Actionaid Nigeria is an affiliate of Actionaid Federation, which has a footprint in over 70 countries across the world. As an anti-poverty government organization, we have been working in Nigeria to combat poverty, promote social justice across 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory in over 23 years. Actually, Nigeria believes that poverty can be eradicated if the right redistribution of resources and resilience is prioritized. With the current concentration in 27 states, we have worked across themes which include governance, social mobilization, women's rights, education, health, humanitarian, public finance, food, agriculture, empowering women, girls, young persons, and communities across all geopolitical zones in Nigeria. We acknowledge the fact that there is a power of one person. So our target, the citizens, we start with one person, the power of one person. The power of one person, as Actionaid, was started by one person, Jackson Sesiko, a British businessman who brought friends together to just think of vulnerable children, starting with India and Kenya. And today, Actionaid has footprints in over 70 countries. And this was 1972. Since the return of democracy in 1999, elections in Nigeria have been characterized by fraud manifesting in different dimensions. This includes vote buying, rigging, violence, thuggery, corruption, manipulation of the voters' register, falsification of results, and calculated disenfranchisement of voters, among others, and the interference of the judiciary in the electoral process in Nigeria. Consequently, the citizens of Nigeria have awakened, as demonstrated in the 2023 general election, by exercising their civic responsibility and moving ahead to demand post-election judicial accountability, setting a good anchor for the Cliff Justice project. People had a lot of expectation, rightly or wrongly. Of course, there are various camps. Some of us, of course, I'm sure various people knew that we do the political calculation for the presidential election.
Credible, free, and fair election from integral building block for a thriving democracy. A true democracy is catalyst for nation building and can strengthen national unity and social development. The capacity of citizens in terms of knowledge of electoral process and electoral litigation. Electoral resolution process as provided by the Electoral Act 2022 shall serve to build citizen consciousness on the statutory roles of the judiciary
Pointing
in
out that
dispensing
election petition
election-related justice
is now a
from
crucial
a
part
part of
of
action in Nigeria.
Nigeria's electoral process. And it sometimes looms extremely large. Sometimes for good reasons, but at other times as well for negative reasons. And now there is a growing role of electoral petitions in determining electoral outcomes in Nigeria. So not only do we have the number of petitions getting ever higher, but also some of the decisions have raised very deep concerns about having a legal constitutional framework that donates such enormous powers to the judiciary in determining electoral outcomes. And the 2023 general election, like some of those before it, since 1999, has also seen a substantial traffic in the direction of election petition tribunals. In fact, a total of 1,209 petitions were filed in the aftermath of the 2023 general election. 5 for presidential, 83 over the 28 governorship constituencies that were contested, 148 for the 109 senatorial districts, 416 for the 360 federal constituencies, while we also had 557 petitions over the outcome of the 993 state constituencies. So overall, you have between 2003 and 2023, a total of 5,279 post-election petitions in that 10-year period. But what is more interesting is that the 1,209 petitions filed over the 2023 election represent about 23% of all the petitions filed. It only probably was, yes, it was only worse than only the 2007 general election, which accounts for about 24% of all the petitions. Some people have interpreted this to mean that the 2023 general election is in about the same in the same category as the 2007 election, but that is open to debate. I have developed what I call the coefficient of disputability of elections, and this measures the propensity of an election to be disputed. It is the ratio of the number of petitions filed to the number of constituencies contested. And that being the case, it seems to me that electoral outcomes over executive positions tend to have a high COD, a high coefficient of disputability. So, for example, for the 2023 general election, the COD for presidential election is 5, while for governorship it is 2.96. If you compare that to the senatorial district with a COD of 1.36, federal constituencies COD of 1.16, and for state constituencies just slightly above 0.5 coefficient of disputability. So you see that executive positions tend to have a higher propensity to be contested than legislative positions. If you look at it in a different way as well, it seems the data suggests that as constituencies become larger, and of course the largest constituency in Nigeria is the presidential constituency. As constituencies become larger, the coefficient of disputability of electoral outcomes also increase. And this is understandable because what it also means is that the smaller the constituency, the lower the value and stakes that politicians attach to them. So the higher the stake, the more likely that the election will be disputed. So, having said all that, what I want to do with my reflections this morning will be twofold. The first is to see if I can place some of the things we know about election